Hey friends, welcome to Story Time with Miss Norton. Today's story is called A Little House Birthday. And if you've been listening to my stories, then you know that we've been on lots of adventures with Laura and her family. And today we get to celebrate a birthday. Now, before we begin, I want to remind you that this week you are pretending to be Laura. So whenever you do your writing piece, you're going to include key details from the story and a feeling that you might have had in today's story. Are you ready to get started? Excellent. All right, do you have any I wonders before we begin? An I wonder, remember, is when you look at the front cover and you go ahead and ask yourself a question, because good readers ask themselves questions before the story, during the story, and after the story. So, what is your I wonder just by looking at the front cover? Great, here we go. A Little House Birthday. Once upon a time, a little girl named Laura lived in the big woods of Wisconsin in a little house made of logs. Laura lived in the little house with her pa, her ma, her big sister Mary, her little sister Carrie, and their good old bulldog Jack. The winter seemed long, and Laura and Mary began to be tired of staying always in the house, especially on Sundays. The time went so slowly. I bet you can probably tell me how Laura is feeling right now. You can use what the author said and what the illustrator's done on Laura's face. I might say Laura is feeling bored, being stuck inside. Do you have a connection with that feeling? Every Saturday night, Pa filled the wash tub with fresh snow and put the wash tub on the cook stove. Soon the snow melted to water and it was time for Laura and Mary to take their baths. Laura took her bath first because she was littler than Mary. Then Mary had her bath, then Ma had her bath, then Pa had his. Because remember, these stories were from a long time ago and they did not have running water in their house. They could not just go take a bath in the bathtub. They had to go get snow to melt into water and then warm it up. Now they were all clean for Sunday, and on Sunday mornings, Laura and Mary dressed in their best clothes with fresh ribbons in their hair. On Sundays, they could not run or shout or be noisy. They must sit quietly and listen while Ma read stories to them. They might look at pictures, they might hold their rag dolls nicely and talk to them, but there was nothing else they could do. One Sunday, Laura could not bear it any longer, and she began to play with Jack and run and shout. Pa told her to sit in her chair and be quiet, and Laura began to cry. So Pa took her on his knee and cuddled her and told her a story. Soon, that long Sunday was almost over, and Laura lay in her trundle bed with Mary, listening to Pa sing Sunday hymns with the fiddle. The next sound she heard was Ma by the stove making breakfast. It was Monday, and Sunday would not come again for a whole week. That morning, when Pa came in to breakfast, he caught Laura and explained that today was her birthday. Laura was 5 years old, a whole handful today. Oh, friends, how do you think Laura's feeling today? Think about it, breathe it, release it. Pa gave Laura a little wooden man he had whittled out of a stick to be company for her rag doll Charlotte. Ma gave her 5 little cakes, one for each year. If you listened to my story the other day, when Laura received Charlotte for Christmas, I told you we would see Charlotte again. So here she is. Now Charlotte has a friend to play with. Mary gave her a new dress for Charlotte. Mary had made the dress herself when Laura thought she was sewing on her patchwork quilt. That night, for a special treat, Pa played Pop Goes the Weasel on his fiddle for Laura. Now watch, he said, watch, and maybe you can see the weasel pop out this time. Then he sang, all around the mulberry bush the monkey chased the weasel. The monkey thought it was all in fun. Pop goes the weasel. A penny for a spool of thread, a penny for a needle. That's the way the money goes. Pop goes the weasel. But Laura and Mary hadn't seen Pa's finger make the string pop. Oh, please, please do it again, they begged him. Pa's blue eyes laughed and the fiddle went on while he sang, but he was so quick they could never catch him. So they went laughing to bed and lay listening to Pa and the fiddle singing. It had been a happy birthday in the little house in the big woods. The end. That was a fun story. Now, I told you before we began, you needed to think about what were some key things that happened in the story, and if you were Laura, how were you feeling? It's going to be another journal entry just like you've done where you're going to say, Dear Journal, today I was feeling, and you come up with the feeling. Just don't forget to tell me why you were feeling that way. And then use those transition words, first, next, then, finally, and tell me some things you did today in order. And sign it, Love, Laura. All right, I'm super stoked to see your writing. Bye, friends.